when Mexico joined NAFTA. The country wanted to modernize, but just what would come after? Insurgent rebels took the South, the presidential candidate was killed. Investors pulled their money out and a crisis ensued. And the expats, the Yanks with their backpacks, yeah, it was quite a thrill. Opportunity to make a buck or two. Perhaps it could help out. They thought they could, no doubt. Oh man, wasn't it cool? And I was down there too, fresh out of school. Yeah.
But just looking out here, out over the balcony, I think another thing that's quite interesting is the number of wires in Mexico City. Walking down the sidewalk, just take a look up at how many wires there are strung everywhere. A wire oversupply. Where are these coming from? Where are they going?
Yeah. You think this is a safety hazard at all? Oh my gosh.
No, that would be our telephone.
This one's kind of neat.
But I think it's the kind of thing you can't really think about too much, because it'll drive you absolutely nuts.
Talking about wires, and I know there's wires that transmit things. Then there are wires that are more structural. That the idea is that it's holding something together. And what never ceases to amaze me, how many houses have wires that are coming out of the house that go nowhere? What's that all about? Do you know what I'm saying? You have a house, and it just doesn't seem finished. There's just these wires that come out, like big, like
rebar.
Yeah, rebar. What's that? What is rebar?
Rebar.
See some of that up there. Maybe not.
Rebar are steel rods, Josh, that are implanted into concrete to reinforce them.
Right. So why wouldn't you clip the rebar once you're finished building the house? I have my theory on it. I mean, I wanted to ask you as an expert of structural entities. My theory is that people, as soon as you cut that rebar, you're basically saying this house will no longer grow. This house stops here. And if you have the rebar continuing, you're saying, there's hope in my home that one day we're going to have that additional floor. We're going to have the extra guest room. It's a sign of hope. But the fact that no one finishes their houses shows that there isn't the capability often to attain that hope. You know what I'm saying? Make it come true.
It's either that or the rebar is just growing all the time.
It's possible. It's quite possible.
I was going to miss these moments of quiet contemplation with friends, pondering the differences between Mexico and the United States. I had dug my own rebar deep into the country, but it was time for me to clip those wires and move onward. On January 16, 1997, I wrote a memorandum to my coworkers, informing them that it was my birthday and that any sort of gift or congratulations would be warmly welcomed. I also took the opportunity to announce that I would soon be leaving the chamber. It seemed like an eternity ago that I had brought my things back home from university, only to spend a few days with my folks before shipping out to Mexico. When I had first started at the chamber, I felt instantly wealthy, bringing home 5 million pesos a month. Okay, sure, that was about $1,500 at the time. But now, with all the changes that had occurred since, my severance, which included an array of payments, totaled less than 25,000 pesos. So what was that worth? $7.50? It didn't matter. Gabe was coming down to Mexico, and I had it in my mind that I was never going to work again in my life. Though according to my agenda, I was bringing things right up to the wire, writing a departmental mission statement for a department I wouldn't be working at anymore, and then meeting with Julio de Quesada, the general manager of Citibank in Mexico and the acting president of the chamber. Julio was also a Brown University alum and was very excited to talk to me about that fact. Perhaps at some other point I would have wanted to milk that connection to try to get a job, but at this point I was just preparing for my departure. My expat friends threw a big going away party for me at a swanky Mexican restaurant in the posh Polanco neighborhood. I had participated in such events for foreigners that came and went over the years, but it was a bit shocking to finally find myself the honoree of such an affair. I was able to say my farewells to coworkers at an office picnic that was organized in the outskirts of the city. There were compulsory tacos and tequila shots, the latter of which was supposed to make the whole bittersweet affair more palatable. My secretary, Pilar Villot, became quite emotional upon hearing the news of my departure. To show her appreciation for my support over the years, she went so far as to make me this lovely needlepoint owl as a gift. The tributes didn't stop there, as my coworkers also presented me with this acrylic American Chamber of Commerce clock, which was a bit more ominous, including what appeared to be my birth and death years on the base. It became clear that the message was that my life had begun with the chamber, as the company also gave me a solid Mexican silver water pitcher, which got even more specific with the exact months and years of my appearance and disappearance from the AmCham world. The truth was that even if you looked at just the years of my life that I was in Mexico, you also had to add on the semester in 1991 that I was there as a student. The period encompassed my time in a Quaker youth hostel during the commencement of the First Iraq War, as well as a period living with a Oaxacan woman named Ada and her family in the village of Telixtlahuaca. From there, I moved into an apartment in the south of Mexico City and started my studies at the Colegio de Mexico. When school ended, I continued traveling throughout the country, both with my new friends and with family that came down to visit. I ultimately made it to Guatemala, where I would truly come to appreciate how industrialized and diversified the economy of Mexico was in comparison. So if you added it all up, I was in the country for much more than the mythical 10,000 hours required to attain supposed expertise in a field. When I think of the countless articles that I had written on the economy, it was a tad overwhelming to think that I was completely turning my back on it all. Likewise, in an era where people would actually come and visit you at an office, I had met with an ungodly number of Mexican and American executives seeking answers to the riddle of the Mexican market. I was now either going to throw away all those contacts or save them for some future decade so as to build a NAFTA pyramid of 1990s business cards. Breaking the news to my bandmates that I was quitting the band and going back to the States was perhaps the hardest thing I had to do. I got the sense that they were in total shock, believing that I was abandoning them just at the cusp of us making it big. I was completely upending their lives, and they had no say in the matter. It was a hard conversation. With that done, it was now time for me to get ready for my departure. My roommate John Moody agreed to let me take the 1973 Dodge Dart back to the States. In preparation, I spent a good deal of time driving around the city to various auto parts stores, fixing up the car as much as I could before bringing it to a land where Dart parts were not so readily available.
What's up? We're supposed to get out of the city, like, what? We wanted to get going by 4:30, but we only got out some by 5. We got a lot of shit in that house here.
Okay, as you can see, I'm freshly shaven, feeling quite beautiful. And I'm using this as an exhibit because I'm going to have to shave when we get to the border. Oh, and incidentally, this is Joe Diffie with Devil Dancing in Empty Pockets.
It appears that what I needed to begin the mental transition back to the United States was a bit of country music and perhaps some of Gabe's simplistic gringo humor.
This is basically what we're going to be driving with the entire time, our whole trip. Those truckers! And this one's here, we're carrying Typhus. This is our first tank of fuel of many to come.
We're coming up, we're like 35 kilometers from Querétaro, which is the first major city from Mexico.
Now, as you can see, we got to give you a grand tour of the freshly waxed Dart.
Nice, yeah.
even with the DART speedometer pegged out at top cruising speed, it was going to take us some 16 hours to get to San Antonio, Texas. Still, the plan was to make it that far in a single day. Gabe may have been marveling at the fact that he was in a foreign country where people speak a different language, but I had processed that fact a long time ago and was anxious to just get back to U.S. soil.
Now what is this mountain range out here?
I don't know.
You don't know?
What am I supposed to know every fucking inch of this country? Look on the fucking map, Einstein.
You're looking at a stupid map.
Yeah, well,
Okay, this is the mountain, and this is the dumb fuck. Going home.
As I look at this footage years later, it is both fascinating and extremely boring at the same time. The mere fact that this video even exists is amazing. It captures my moment of exodus. This was a pivotal moment in my life. I was leaving all my personal and work responsibilities behind me and starting life completely fresh. However, little of that emotion is actually captured on tape. It's like finding a lost video of Moses leading the Israelites out of Egypt, only to be stuck with the boring parts where people are just walking through the desert bickering at each other. The rest of the footage primarily covers Gabe and I marveling at the performance of the DART on the open road, and then stressing out about the fact that having left the city, we were no longer able to find leaded gasoline anywhere. We would hold our breath to see if the engine could survive its new unleaded life. However, the bigger issue ended up being that when we made it to Laredo, Texas, the Border Protection Service would bang on the car's gas tank looking to see if we were transporting drugs, and in the process they opened up a hole in the rusty tank. They were kind enough to point out that we were slowly losing fuel, which sent us into a panic as we desperately sought out a gasoline station along the highway to San Antonio. We ran on fumes for miles in what seemed like some sort of Hanukkah-like miracle, reinforcing the biblical proportions of it all. Fortunately, we eventually found gas just in the nick of time, as well as some putty that we could apply to the tank so as to continue our journey. It would take more than simply crossing the border for me to reach my promised land. The road ahead would present further difficulties that would likewise need to be addressed with either putty, spit, or duct tape. However, Mexico was now in the rear-view mirror, and although it had been an exciting and formative time in my life, it was also an extremely challenging period in its own right. Still, with time, given the limits of human memory, the complexities of the experience would be glossed over, leaving an idyllic, simplified vision of my prior life as a Mexican executive. Only years later, when I discovered all this footage in the basement, would I really piece together what it all meant.